exciting Thai Global Summit. This is our second one, and I want to thank all of you who have taken trouble to come here, and I am absolutely sure you're going to have great time and great networking. And I want to thank all the speakers who have come from all over the world. Also, we have charter members who have taken trouble to come also from all over the world. Okay? And then this conference would not have been possible without the support of our sponsors who have generously given us the money.
Today we are growing at the rate of 9.3%, and we are at 400 billion. So if we don't do anything, even at the business usual, if we sustain this growth rate, we will be a $1 trillion economy by 2029. But we want to accelerate it. We want to become a $1 trillion economy by 2025. I think we need to create a lot of platforms for our startups, because what I see is that the employment may not be generated to the extent it has generated through the manufacturing sector. With all AI and robotics, I think it may not be the most employment generator, the manufacturing sector. But at the same time, most employment will come from the startups. They will have capacity. And if we create an environment where startups have an ecosystem to grow, to be marketed, to become global, if they have certain types with the funds which we have already created, the ecosystem in terms of incubators, to commercialize all the linkages, I think that will change the entire space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to get into too much macro. I think that'll be boring for everyone. I would say there are 3 or 4 big things in the last few decades. Clearly, you've heard a lot about India growing, consumption, per capita, living standards, urbanization. But I would take it a little differently. In my switch from banking to investing, I think one of the big things that at least I sort of called on was that India is going to be a country that is going to be deficit for capital and technology. And I wouldn't say management resources and expertise, because I think that India has a lot of it. And I think one of the reasons obviously goes back to the fundamental of the economics in this country, which is over, 4 decades you have run very chronic, large fiscal deficits. And the fact of the matter is that when you squeeze out the private savings, you don't have enough real savings available long-term for building real businesses, or what you call real asset creation. And therefore, I think willy-nilly we as companies and entrepreneurs have to depend upon imported capital. Now, there's nothing wrong with that till the local savings build up, but I think we have a long way to go macroeconomically to really have a large pool of long-term sustainable savings in India. And until then, I think foreign investors will be quite important. So I think just representing the private equity asset class, not really a venture guy, I think we have a lot of relevant role to play, a very responsible role to play. And that's, I think, a big driver. I think the second big thing is India is going to grow. I mean, India has to grow. There is just no choice. We are at a kind of a medium level of growth, I would say. It's got a long way to go. And consumption, investment spending, both have to go up. So even if savings don't go up much, I think we have to fill up the gap as the investor class. So I think that's broadly the sort of setup. And I think that makes the thesis of investors who I represent here, I think is a very sustainable thesis for a few more, at least a decade before we see a real buildup of savings in India itself.
From my point of view, and I think also from a part of the German government, I think we are doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of programs to support startups. We are doing a lot of things to support startups and to connect them with the German Mittelstand. The German Mittelstand is the backbone of German industry. And there we are doing a lot of things to bring them together, because I think in this connection with young startup, with young entrepreneurs, and what we call German Mittelstand, small and medium-sized enterprises, that is a great potential and a great chance for the economy and the industry in Germany, of course, and in Europe. And that's why we are here today, that we are proud to be here. And actually, we are, I'm here not alone. We are here with a big delegation with the German Startup Association, with Miss Angela Di Giacomo, where we start a project to bring Indian and German startups together to build bridges between our two countries, because I'm a great believer in these economic ties between Germany and India. So we're doing, to sum up, we're doing a lot of things to support startup, we're doing a lot of things to support startups and bring them together with SMEs, and we're doing a lot of things to bring Indian and German startups together to grow up in our economy, and I think that is a great chance and a great potential for the future in our two economies.
The government is the biggest entrepreneur. I think that you start from there as a broad thinking when it comes to entrepreneurship from the broader Singapore perspective. But I think for my own sector, the financial sector, if you think about entrepreneurship, this is perhaps the golden age of entrepreneurs in financial sector. The whole financial sector as a large enterprise is getting unbundled. So large part of the services are coming out of which is supposed to be closed systems and getting small value chain. A lot of those bankers, ex-bankers or bright graduates are coming into this ecosystem, unbundling some of these pieces, and which kind of what we call as the great fintech revolution, which is creating a whole set of bigger canvas for the whole entrepreneurs to succeed. And that's what the big macro picture from an entrepreneur's perspective when it comes to financial sector.
I was told to be as entrepreneurial, insightful as possible. So I'm going to give you a few of those. But of course, having been in healthcare for the last 35 years, you do dream, you do hope, you do wish. But where you're going depends on the direction, but also where you began. As entrepreneurs, you don't want to just see the end state, you want the path. As your investors say, what's your path to profitability? I think all of you are saying, how do we get there? Because health is one subject that impacts us all. So let me quickly share a few trends and what we think is happening in this space. The first one, I think, is very, very clearly, as someone who in our group has over 10,000 beds, we're very hospital-centric, 180,000 open heart surgeries, largest transplant program in the world. We are saying that care is moving. Care is moving from the hospital to the clinics, from the clinics to the home, and from home to a 24/7 ubiquitous access to healthcare, which will be enabled and driven, enabled by technology, but driven by individuals. And therefore, the next big trend is really that healthcare is becoming more patient-centric, and not just patient-centric, healthcare is becoming more individual-centric. It is the wellness and illness which are converging together into new business models and new paradigms of prevention, and therefore healthcare is getting definitely more preventive, definitely more proactive with prediction, with the ability to look at clinical parameters and its correlation to incidence of disease, treatment patterns and paradigms, and therefore the aversion of an impending crisis. Healthcare is becoming personalized, preventive, and definitely with the genomic analysis, healthcare is becoming more predictive.
It's very important for investors to recognize and to accept the fact that it's impossible to have a record that only successes. The only way to have only success, to avoid failures is not to do anything. If you don't do anything, you have no failures. And if you want to be a good investor, you have to come to grips with the idea that part of the cost of doing business is to have failures. If you don't have failures, it means that your investments are not volatile enough. And this means that you will never be able to have a very good exit which will compensate for all your losses. This is why every time I'm being introduced as if I had a wonderful record, I immediately emphasize my failures, not to impress your people, you people that I'm very humble, but in order to enable me to come into grips with the phenomena that you have losses. But if you see a talented guy, invest in him. You don't have to hear his idea. Just go and give him check and tell him, come to me when you have the idea. Second thing, he has to be passionate. Passion, especially in startup, passion is the fuel which drive startup. This is this and talent are the two most important ingredients. The third one, which is not necessary, but it helps a lot, that the people will have good virtues, that they will be nice people, especially as you grow old and you invest in more startups, you want the people to be nice. You know, when I was very active in distributing checks to young talented people, my wife told me it's impossible that every kid that come to our home is talking to you 5 minutes and go away with a check, and many times they don't get anything. I told you I lost 30 of them. So I always told my wife, you know, we can afford it, and if he doesn't come with a good exit, at least regard it as if we gave him a scholarship, extended scholarship to exercise his dream.
There are no regrets in life, there are only learnings. Because whatever we do, you know, when I just entered the stock market, I met a man who told me that either you don't trade and invest in the stock market, you don't regret. You know, because I think for a dogmatic person like me, I can only learn from mistakes. And I'm not afraid to make a mistake, because if I'm afraid to make mistakes, I'll never take decisions. But only I want to take one which I can afford so I can live to make another one. I say hard work, integrity, God's blessings, lucky to have been born in India and come to the stock market when the Sensex was 150. Regret my personal habits. One thing I could change in life, it's my personal habits, and not from now, maybe from 20 years ago. And always the optimist, and always a risk taker. There's a buffet here. There are so many dishes. Eat what you want. Don't eat too much. Because in a period of 5 years, you always have rotations, right? And I don't advise anybody who's present here except one who's a professional investor to try and invest himself. The best medium is through mutual funds. You know, if I get sick, I just take some Crocin and go to sleep. But my mother and Rekha will call the doctor, because they see I need professional help. Similarly, investing is a complex procedure and complex methodology, and requires a lot of professional help and monitoring. So I think best reason is to use mutual funds. And I think the best way to invest in India is in SIPs. It may sound very boring, you know, because India is basically in a bull run, the economy itself. So if you invest at all times, you'll invest at an average point. And I think this bull market in India and Indian stocks is going to continue for I don't know how many decades. And the basic reasoning is that because the economy will grow at 7-8%. And if we have, I feel in given time India's economy will grow at double digits. And we have 4-5%, 5% inflation. With 15% growth, nominal growth, I don't see how equity valuations, you know, will not rise at 15 to 18%. Some years may be 40, some years may be negative. So I think you should invest over extended periods of time. I know it's very interesting to discuss stocks and talk stocks and say I bought this and my stock is doubler and my stock is stabler, but it may not be very profitable.
It's important what we buy. I think it's more important what price we buy. In 1999, I bought 5% of United Spirits and United Breweries for 6 crores of rupees. Everybody, you know, if I held those shares today, the value of that investment today would be 2,000 crores, right? And everybody told me, Vijay Mallya, you can't make any money, he's a thief, his companies are never on money. But, you know, I thought you are getting 55% of India's liquor industry at a valuation of 100 crores. That means the entire liquor industry in India was being valued at 200 crores. So that was ridiculous, and I made money. I made at least 15 times my money in 3 years. So what most important thing is, it's about what you buy, it's what valuation you buy. See, what I look at is, first I look at the size of the opportunity. See, I carry leverage, but I don't carry leverage beyond a point. So if for any reason I need to bring down my leverage, I might sell.
Second is, if I have a better investment opportunity, I need capital, I might sell. I think these are the primary two reasons why I will sell an investment. Or if I feel that an investment is, horribly overvalued, and investments are like children, you don't feel like that easily, then only I sell.
Yeah, probably what we need to appreciate is the environment in India is very different today compared to what it was just a decade back or a couple of decades back when ISRO started its work in this area of space technology. What happened is when this new capability of putting objects in space became available in the late 50s, in India we had Dr. Sarabhai, who looked at this as a tremendous opportunity to make use of the space technology for bringing in solutions to many of the problems. So what ISRO has done over the period of last few decades is bring in this technology, make use of the technology accessible to it globally, and then what is not accessible, develop it indigenously here. And then today, for example, we have about 45 satellites providing us information about remote sensing, meteorology, then in terms of communication and navigation. And using these capabilities, ISRO has already demonstrated very significant societal applications. So if India has to really take advantage of the global space market, which is really coming up now, because you can see like land, ocean, and air, space is the new frontier.
Yep.
Space tourism, space adventure, space exploitation, exploration. In all these places, there is a tremendous opportunity for the Indian entrepreneurs to get a pie in the global market. But for that to happen, it is necessary that we, as a country, bring in mechanisms which enable them to do this work. We at ISRO, what we are trying to do is bringing in some kind of a joint venture with a company, setting up a company which can launch PSLV as a launch vehicle. We are setting a target, something like 2020-21 time frame, where the first launcher can happen through such a joint venture. And beyond that, today we have a number of geospatial technology tools and information data sets available, and entrepreneurs can provide solutions to the problems of the state and the central government. And both the state and central governments have started making use of the space technology for monitoring and planning activities. And there is a tremendous opportunity here also in terms of geospatial technology entrepreneurs and also in terms of RF technologies. There is a host of opportunities which are available. But what needs to be done is both in terms of enabling environment to be set up, bringing in some simplicity in terms of the rules of the game from the government point of view, and entrepreneurs trying to look at what they can get, not only to supply to Indian requirement, but also global requirements.
We build being human. All the things that I liked as a child, all the things that I wanted to do and I could not do, wanted to wear, could not wear, I've just done those things only. Even my movies, all the films that I've seen as a child growing up and coming out of the theater and wanting to be that hero, I've just done that. I've just followed my instincts and my gut, and so far, most of the times, I have been pretty okay with that, because I believe that if I'm thinking of this, I'm sure everyone else has thought about this. So the idea, everyone has the idea. You just need to implement it. Like, everyone wants to walk on water, kisi ne ship bana diya. Everyone wants to fly. Somebody made aeroplanes. Everyone wants to talk to people, across the world, and somebody invented a telephone. So that everyone has the same ideas, but how you implement it, and obviously quality does matter. So if you're priced right and your quality is great, I don't think that you could fail in that. I have an idea. I have had this idea for the longest time. I can't do it. So if I share this idea, perhaps wo idea utha le, wo kar le. So just because you have an idea it doesn't mean that you keep it. And if it's a good, noble one, I think you should give it out. And there's enough place and enough work for everyone. So, people keep on telling me that don't share your ideas, don't share your ideas. I said, why not? I have not been able to do it. If I share it, somebody else will implement it. Somebody else will benefit out of it, and through that, a whole lot of people. So I don't mind sharing ideas.